I go out and ask people to participate, and when I get there, frequently they'll say, well, where would you like me to sit, or what should I do? And I'll say, wherever you're comfortable and whatever you want to, because you're creating the image for me. My job is to capture it, not to create it. So I never know what people will do. We're at the Brewery Art Complex in downtown Los Angeles, and I am a photographer, and that's what I do. I thought, well, what if I shot it in 3D too? So I did so. The project started, interestingly enough, when I was a college student. I was in my final semester, and I was working at the time as a building inspector for the Federal Housing Authority, which owned this married student housing at the college that I was attending. I took a class in documentary. I went out and started to photograph that apartment complex and those people just because I found it interesting. There's something, you get to know people in a way by doing this. And I always find it fascinating. You know, I had one person I photographed, and he created a very interesting picture. He strew garbage all over his floor and dumped ashtrays on it. And we did a picture, and I really liked the picture. He seemed to. 6 months later, he came back and asked me if I would re-photograph him because he had been dishonest. And I thought, well, that's interesting, okay. So I went down to photograph him and knocked on his door, and he yelled, "Come in." And when I opened the door, he was standing there stark naked and ready to be photographed. And I'm like, okay, that's not what I was expecting, but okay. You know, so people have their own self-image that they choose to either present or hide, and I get to see that. So I don't get to create the end product, I get to capture the tiles in the mosaic, and what it will all add up to as a slice of American history is yet to be seen. The details that emerge are the socio and economic details of the changing pattern of American life, as opposed to changes in my style or my direction. So it's trusting fate, you know, and knowing that whatever it delivers will be fine. And then at about the 15th year, I unfortunately went blind in one eye. And that, of course, was kind of like, oh great, I'm a 3D photographer who can't see 3D, good. That'll help. My production went into a very rapid diminishment. A few years later, I think it was about 2.5 years later, my eye doctor approached me and said that there was a new procedure they could do, and that he couldn't guarantee that it would help me, but it might. And so I, of course, said, let's go. And it did. It restored my vision to 20/25. And, you know, that was definitely like a spark that rekindled my interest in going back to the project. It makes you realize right away that so much of what we struggle with in the external world of work or community are things that don't really tell you that much about who people really are. There's something marvelous about how people reveal themselves. What I take away from it is just pay attention. Pay attention, because we go through our lives, we aren't necessarily really thinking about the implications or meanings of the things that we see and do in our environment. And when you pay attention, life becomes much richer.